Mr. President, thank you so very much for your comments, for your time and effort in this very important country, and we're pleased that, of course, you are here visiting us. Thank you, Your Excellency. Dean Hinton, others of those that are working so hard with this, Jay Gooch, President Gooch, other presidents here, thank you for all being here. I know that as discussions unfold, there'll be some thoughts today about what the role, the functions of PUSH should be. I would urge that included in that is a focus on undergraduate education, their education and their engagement. I think in some ways there's a comparative advantage here with PUSH that can be further developed as distinctive from some other functions that you want to undertake. It is my job to introduce my good friend Kathy Bertini. Kathy, probably remember I first knew you, Kathy, back when you were in Illinois these few years ago, involved in government and politics. First came to national prominence really with the food stamp program and USDA, and then for 10 very tumultuous years, ran the World Food Program in a very effective, important manner. I think that's when it really came to its full strength and effort from a long history, and we all are congratulatory of Kathy for that effort. A World Food Prize winner, BIFAD member, many other things. Kathy, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Peter. Where I am, things are cooking. I loved that statement from the president, and in fact his whole speech. But I thought about that in the context of speaking with you today, because in looking at the list of who was planning to come to this event, it's really a very daunting group of people. Every person here is not only committed to ending hunger, but you have a long history of having worked to do so. So we're not talking about people who need to know the basics. We're needing to go the next step, and I think the president helped us think about that today. But President Gooch, thank you so much for pulling us all together. And I have to acknowledge President Jones of the University of Albany, because if you didn't figure it out already, both the President Hernandez and this speaker are alums of his institution. So, so we're very proud of that. I have to also acknowledge a couple of my very longtime friends, Dan Silverstein and David Lambert, who are here, and talk about people who are working hard to end hunger. Those are certainly two people who are. I look forward to our discussions later with my colleague Roger Thoreau from the Chicago Council and my former colleague Patrick Webb from the World Food Program, and Shengen Fen, who has done such amazing work with he and his colleagues at IFPRI. I guess when you're old enough, you have all these people that are your former colleagues that you get to work with. But especially, I want to acknowledge June Henton and Harriet Giles, because we would not be here today and talking about any of these things if it had not been for their vision and their active work. So why am I here besides that, that June asked me to come? Well, yeah, sure, I support what she's doing and has done from the very beginning, from when she asked me to the first event that Auburn had at the United Nations for their Quality of Life Awards. And then when the Universities Fighting Hunger started, and I had the opportunity to speak to students here in DC, and then also in Auburn, at least on 2 occasions, including going to an Auburn Ole Miss football game and getting to sit in the president's box and watch the game. But I'm here because, like you, I want to make a difference in the world. And like you, I think I have some skills and capabilities to do so. Like you, I want to target places where there are real needs and where we can collectively make a difference. Like you, I think that hunger is absolutely deplorable, but solvable. And that's why everyone in this room has been working so hard on these issues and why we've come together today. When we look at the numbers internationally of those who are desperately poor, of course, and poor and hungry, of course, one is too many. But we look at a number that FAO tells us now is only in the neighborhood of 800 million, and only is still huge, but it's gone down. And in fact, the numbers of people have gone down who are hungry and poor, even as the population has gone up. There has been real progress, and the real progress is because, in large part, of agriculture development, of business development, of investment, of jobs, of opportunities for poor people around the world to be able to build better lives. But what do they need in order to do that? Well, without adequate nutrition, there's absolutely no way somebody can get or keep a job. There's absolutely no way they can have the energy to do so. There's no way a woman has enough energy to work in the fields and feed her family. There's no way a child is able to grow. So adequate nutrition, number one, for those people who are desperately hungry and for those people who are trying to work their way out of hunger and poverty. Melinda Gates recently said, "I know of no other problem in the world that does so much danger but yet receives so little attention." So people are here who are working on programs like 1,000 Days, who are working in the World Food Program and FAO and working at Bread for the World, David Beckman and many other organizations to try to make an impact on adequate nutrition. And as we said in the recent Chicago Council report, that's changed. Because even though many people have often talked about adequate nutrition, it's really only until recently that we've actually put this as a high priority within the agriculture community, or at least tried to put it in higher priority within the agriculture community. Whether we're talking about research or whether we're talking about actual implementation, we can't just be talking about how much food we grow, but we have to be talking about the quality of food that we grow. In the food aid community, we took steps a long time ago to go from volume to people. And now we've got to move that further forward in terms of agriculture development in general. And that critical time of the 1,000 days, but all the time of a person's life, if she or he is going to have the ability to be able to have productive families and productive jobs, then that's critical. Those of you who know me won't be surprised for me to cite one other issue internationally that will make all the difference, and that's education, and particularly the education of girls. And I don't have to cite the statistics. You know that makes a huge difference in a family's life. That meaning if a mother is educated, if she's educated even through primary school, but now into secondary school, which is the biggest hurdle. We've seen a lot of the data about the MDG saying, well, we've done pretty well in primary school education. Well, for two things to be concerned about. One is that's for people who enroll in school, those statistics. That doesn't mean those people stay in school, girls or boys. And that's a critical number to look underneath when you see those figures. But the second issue is the transfer from primary school into secondary school, which is really still the biggest problem for girls. So but what a difference it makes, how the GDP of a country goes up if the women are educated, how the family's economic development is improved if the girls and women are educated, how their agriculture production is increased if the women are educated, how better off the children are over the long term if the women are educated, how better off the family is. So it's still a high priority. It has been for years. It still must be. So please go beyond the statistics of, well, we're doing pretty well at the primary school level. We need to do much more. But we also have to think about domestic assistance as well, or domestic hunger, let's say. It's not the same, of course, here, as the president said, as it is in some other countries. But I remember in 1994 going to Cornell to give a speech. I had been at the World Food Program for 2 years. So I had been to Somalia and to Bosnia and to India and to other countries in the Horn of Africa, to Southern Africa, when someone at Cornell asked me, where was the worst place that you visited? And I thought about it for a while, and I said, inner city America. I think my answer would still be the same. Why? Hope. Hope, because our system still does not give people enough hope that they're going to have a decent education in inner city America, that they're going to have grocery stores that supply on a regular basis the kind of fruits and vegetables we say people should eat. Because of the crime statistics, because of the service availability, and now also lately because of flaws in law enforcement process. What are we going to do about those as well? Well, those are two broad statements about issues relating to international and national. But now we're brought back together again, senior leaders fighting hunger around the world and in this country. What are we going to do? What are we going to do at your universities? What is PUSH really going to do when it gets down to it? Number one, I think as leaders in universities and other institutions, there's no more important thing than to be a leader on this matter. You know, university presidents, Dr. Jones, I know aren't exactly the same as presidents of the United States, although your faculty may be kind of as difficult sometimes as the Congress is for the president. No, never. But you still have a bully pulpit, you, the presidents and the deans. You still have a bully pulpit, and as the President of the United States does, and I'll give you two examples. When President George H.W. Bush said in his inaugural address, I want to build a kinder, gentler America. Well, those of us in his administration, that was our signal. We didn't need to sit down with them to have him say, now I want you to do this, this, and this, and this. I want to build a kinder, gentler America. Well, I was, as Peter said, responsible for the food stamp program, and the WIC program, and the school feeding programs. So I figured I was on the front lines of kinder, gentler. And what does that mean? Well, then we translated what we were going to do with those programs into his vision for America. When President Obama said in his first inaugural address, and to poor people in poor countries, we want to help your farms to flourish. Well, the State Department and AID and USDA said, okay, now we're going to do something about that. And we're going to put first the Secretary's 7-point plan for food security, and then the administrators Feed the Future in practice. And they did. And they did it very strongly. But that was from a vision from the top. So first, Mr. President, Madam President, Mr. Dean, Madam Dean, lead. Set the overall mission about what it is that you want your university to do. And number two, choose that mission. There's a wide variety of options from which you can choose. I mean, broadly speaking, are we ending hunger? Or is our mission at our university going to be specifically about education, or specifically about girls' education? Or will it be about extension and how we can improve extension services in Africa? Or will it be about nutrition and what else can we do to provide our university expertise to help with under 5 nutrition? How can we change our research programs to address these issues? How can we mobilize our students? But bottom line is, what is your mission? Articulate that mission to your university or your organization. Then number 3, of course, organize. Now, I come from a generation that Peter will remember where we had people organizing on campus like Lee Atwater and Karl Rove. So, you know, they had their own tactics for how they organized, and they were pretty good, pretty effective, let's put it that way. But there is a new generation of organization, and it's not around politics as much. Well, there are some around politics, but I'm not talking now about politics as much as organizing against hunger, like the university's Fighting Hunger model that June and others implemented at Auburn University, where each department, each school within the university had a mission. and establish their own mission. What can engineering students do to end hunger? What can law students do to end hunger? What can agriculture or liberal arts students do to end hunger? And then bringing all those diverse thoughts together was really, really thoughtful and effective, impactful. It was really organized. One real simple thing is to call a meeting. Have the president call a meeting and say, any of the faculty who's interested in hunger issues or food security issues or whatever it is that your mission you're deciding, please come to a meeting on such and such a day. I think you'll be amazed who shows up, because people from all different departments that you never thought of before will show up and say, oh yeah, I have a little piece in my, in my course about this, or gee, yes, I have an issue, my son is in the Peace Corps, or something. I bet you'll be amazed at who comes. Number 4, find allies. Find other allies in other universities that are near you, or in high schools that are nearby that might be able to interact with you on issues against hunger, on junior colleges and on NGOs. Maybe make a MOU with a Heifer International or a CARE or someone and say, okay, we're going to work on such and such issue together. Number 5, of course, and this is part of June's mission in making this a presidential initiative, I think, instead of a student initiative, build a lasting program. Build a program through the faculty, through the coursework, through student groups, and the institution that supports student groups. And then through local interactions, whether it's through refugee community or the food bank community or someone else, if in fact part of your mission is to work on local issues. And then number 6, and this is my final point, take advantage of other opportunities. For instance, all sorts of speakers come to campus. What if you recommended that somebody be sent, whether it's from an alumni newspaper or the student newspaper, to interview somebody coming to perform, or somebody to come to talk about economics or engineering, and come and talk to them about hunger. Put a totally different twist and see what they have to say that you can input into your process. What about the student diasporas? I know from my WFP time, the students, for instance, from Korea, from South Korea, were active all over the country to try to raise money when there was a famine in North Korea. During the Horn of Africa drought in 2000, students from Ethiopia and the Horn of Africa who were in the United States got very active in trying to raise funds for programs in their areas. I don't think we need a drought and a famine in order to try to do that. I think there's an incredible diaspora that we could tap in order to try to get people involved in these processes. Our elected representatives, every university is always trying to reach out to the people, the congressmen and the senators and others, well, let's give them some nice opportunities. Let's invite them to come to one of our anti-hunger events or one of our outreach programs to the community and do something that's a combination of something with the university and something with the community. And then the other opportunity are the new development goals that the UN is about to implement or decide on formally in September. So end of September is a big deal. I mean, because the UN, all the heads of state are going to get together to make the next step beyond the Millennium Development Goals to the Sustainable Development Goals. And so that's a great time for a kickoff for something around picking off the pieces of that are relevant to our mission and jumping into it. Then between then and World Food Day in the middle of October, what a great time for a lot of activity. In my life, there were 2 great philosophers, my grandmother and Edmund Burke. Not in my lifetime. My grandmother used to say to me always, when I was a young child, when she'd see some unfortunate person on television or in the community, "There but for the grace of God go I." She is always with me, and that is always with me in my work, and it's probably with you in yours. I always try to think, what if that were me? What would I need? I'd want somebody to listen. I'd want somebody to reach out a helping hand. I want somebody to be able to just give me a little extra support so that I could then achieve what my God-given ability was to try to achieve. And then there was Edmund Burke. All that is necessary for the forces of evil to win in the world is for enough good men to do nothing. Hunger is solvable. Evil will be defeated by all of our work together to end hunger. Thank you.